What's going on? Welcome to the Viral Talentz CSGO podcast. I'm Chaz, he's Saint, and you're watching the America DFS Podcast Network.
Let's go.
Tonight we're going to be breaking down the Saturday morning, March 13th, Counter-Strike Global Offensive slate. It features 3 matches and begins at 6 a.m. Eastern Time. So we got a new group going on. We have in this ESL Pro League group play, we have Group B now taking off. Group A just ended. Heroic finished in first. They actually didn't lose at all in the group. They beat every single team. They beat Complexity, FPX, OG, Renegades, and Big. Complexity finished in second. Complexity and Heroic played today. They had a pretty close matchup together. I thought Complexity was actually going to beat them for the longest, but Heroic ended up taking it 16-14, I believe. But Complexity ended up getting second in the group, and then you got FPX who took third. They beat OG to finish 3-2 in the group, and OG finished 2-3. So now you got Complexity and FPX moving on to the playoffs. You also got Heroic moving on to the playoffs. I believe Heroic has a first-round bye, so that's essentially what the first team gets in that group. So now we got the new group, Group B playing. We got Vitality, G2, Mouse Sports, FaZe, NIP, and INTS. Obviously, same format, round robin. These guys will play from Saturday all the way to probably Thursday, I imagine, every day. Just doing round robin, playing every single team in the group. Tomorrow's matchups, we got Mouse Sports versus INTS. They take off at 6 a.m. Eastern Time. We got G2 at NIP. We got Vitality at FaZe. So, again, on this FaZe team, we now have Kerrigan. We now have Twist, along with Colderza, Brokey, and Rain. And then we also have G2. G2 has made a substitution. They've benched Kenny S, and now they have Jax in the lineup. You'll notice on DraftKings, Jax has a big O next to him as if he's out. I don't know why DraftKings has that in play. Maybe I can give them a little tweet during our session today when Saint's talking, and they'll get that removed because Kenny S is going to be benched, and Jax will be playing. On the NIP side, no changes. They do have ZTR playing with Popsky, Knock, Hampus, and Rez. Mouse Sports, Dexter is now on that lineup instead of Kerrigan. They've been with Dexter a couple matches now, so that's really nothing new. Inside, we don't really have any new substitutions or anything like that. So just wanted to give you a little bit before we got started and really jumped into things. Wanted to give you a little bit of a rundown of the group that's taken off for tomorrow in the new group, as well as the substitutions. With that being said, before we jump into things, how you doing tonight, Saint? What's going on your way?
Not much, man. I'm excited about this new slate of the stage, Group B coming in. I'm excited to see how these teams play out. I loved Group A. It was a little different with Renegades and things like that. It was a little off to me, just the way Big came out and performed in Group A. And Renegades, I wasn't expecting them to really – I expected them to do more than they actually did. That's all I'm going to say. But other than that, man, I'm super blessed. I'm excited to start this whole new journey with this whole podcast situation, and trying to help as many people as we possibly can gain leverage on insiders that we may have or may be looking at when it comes to showdowns, slates, and all of that. So I'm excited about tomorrow's slate when it comes to Mouse Sports, NC, G2 against NIP, and then Vitality and FaZe. But other than that, man, I've just been relaxing. It's been nice to be off the past couple of days. But how are things your way?
Not bad, man. Not bad. Pretty much the same. I'm excited for a new group with what we got going on in Counter-Strike. We got a new group taking off. It's funny because, you know, when the new group takes off, like when Group A started at the beginning of the week, it's kind of like, okay, we got some teams, you're all excited about them, but by the end of the week, you're kind of like, okay, I'm really tired of talking about all these, same teams over and over again. So from my perspective, it's refreshing to have a new group. I'm excited to see who makes it through from this group. And I think we have some interesting matchups for tomorrow to break down. And as you said, I'm excited to get, I said I'm excited enough. But anyways, I think it's awesome what we're doing here with this podcast. It seems like it's really starting to impact and help people out, and that's the most important thing for me. So, again, with that being said, any way that that you want to provide feedback to us would be most grateful, in the sense of whether it's on Twitter or in the Discord. Any suggestions on how we go about our formats in the podcast, anything like that, that's greatly appreciated. But outside of that, let's just get into it.
Yeah.
Our first matchup, we got Mouse Sports versus Ints. So Vegas seems to believe that Mouse Sports should win this pretty convincingly. You got Frozen, Rops, Acor, Dexter, Bemus versus Alu, Snappy, Dodo, Daika, and Spence. When I look at this matchup, to be quite honest, I like Frozen, I like Rops, I like Acor at the core. I think that they, Mouse Sports should win this pretty easily. Just looking at the breakdown of it, it wouldn't surprise me if they win this in 2 maps in a sweep. Maybe it goes 3 maps, but the reason why I'm having trouble believing that it'll go 3 maps is because Ints plays a lot of low-tier competition, like Tier 2 competition, and so while their stats look a little inflated as far as map choices and wins, I don't know if that's necessarily sustainable when you're playing a solid Tier 1 team like Mouse Sports. Furthermore, when you look at their team and you see someone like a Daika performing at an overall rating at a 1.29 right now, I think that's a little inflated, again, going back to this competition they've been playing. When I look at who they've been playing, you see that they've played Havu, Saw, Sprout, Endpoint, Lingby Vikings, the Boars. These are all Tier 2 competition or Tier 2 teams. So that doesn't say a lot to me. Mouse Sports hasn't played in the last 3 weeks. But with that being said, I think they've had the last 3 weeks to practice and get Dexter in form with this new team, as well as, I guess, Acor. So from my perspective, I think statistically it's a little inflated, and you can't necessarily look at this Ints team and say, okay, yeah, they're really good, because they're good compared. It's kind of like that Renegades thing, Renegades statistically looked good on paper because of the competition they were playing in Australia, but then once they started playing these European teams in that Tier 1 competition, everything changed. So again, with Ints plays a little bit more Tier 1 competition. They are ranked 39th, but I don't think that they're even near the level of this Mouse Sports team. I do think that Mouse Sports can come out and win this pretty convincingly in 2 maps. Again, maybe it goes 3 maps. It looks to be that Ints plays Nuke, Train, and Overpass pretty well. I don't know if that's sustainable with Mouse Sports, but in the event that it was, maybe it goes 3 maps. What I really like about this matchup is if it goes 2 maps and it's a sweep, you really like that core of Acor, Rops, and Frozen. But if it is a sweep, I think you can alternate in lineups with BMOS and Dexter as well, because Dexter is very cheap and sometimes BMOS does pop off. If you look at his box scores and sweeps, he does perform between that 50 to 60 range. For $7,000, that's not bad. If Mouse Sports doesn't sweep, I like Rups, I like Frozen, I like Acor still, but I'd probably just play 2 of them instead of 3 of them. I'd probably stay away from BMOS and Dexter. When I look on the inside, in the event that they did win a map, I suppose I like Daika, I suppose I like Alu. Outside of that, I'd probably stay away from everyone else. That's pretty much everything I got for this matchup. What about you, Saint?
I think these first 2 matchups are pretty self-explanatory when it comes to a breakdown. For me, honestly and personally, I think Mouse Sports come out and absolutely dominate. When it comes to the AWPer and the rifles, I think it's a top 3 squad versus I would say tier 2 in that range of things. I'm not bashing NC at all. I think they're a phenomenal team, but I just think Mouse Sports, they've been there, they've done it. They know how to wiggle their way into the top spots. They may be ranked 15 now, but I think this Dexter edition is pretty dangerous when it comes down to a lot of things. I think Frozen, Acor, Ropes, Bymus, and Dexter are probably one of the best lines in CSGO. And especially if Dexter starts getting hot, I don't know who's going to stop this team, to be honest, because Bymus is average. He's their lower end guy, but when it comes down to things, he's putting up pretty good points on a game-to-game basis. So you do see his kills per round at a .57 compared to his deaths per round at .65, but you have to look at it when things are going right and things are going wrong. When things are going wrong, he's there no matter what, trying to help this team. And across the board, I think it's going to go 2 games, honestly. I think Mouse Sports handle this pretty easily when it comes to map selection overall. I'll give you a little breakdown on what I think and how it's going to play out tomorrow when it comes to map selections. I think NC remove Inferno. I think Mouse Sports remove Overpass. I think NC pick Train. I think Mouse Sports pick Dust 2. I think NC remove Vertigo. Mouse Sports removes Mirage. And that leaves Nuke left over. So I think it's going to come down to map selection and map choices. I think this could go 3 games in Mouse Sports' favor no matter what. But I'm leaning more on a sweep, especially in the first game. It's hard to tell, though. I mean, especially in the beginning of these stages, you don't know how these teams are going to be playing. Like Mouse Sports, like you said, they haven't played in a little over a month, so they could be a little rusty, a little choppy. But I don't think that's the case when it comes to Group B at all. I think all these teams are pretty solid across the board. These teams have never played each other. So I think that'll be interesting. And you brought up a good point when it comes to NC. I don't see him really playing anybody that's top-notch. I see a Sprout, Endpoint, things like that. But when you break it down on the Mouse Sports side, they beat Complexity. They lost to Gambit, which is a top 5 team already. You saw how they've been playing. Lost to him in 3 games. Got swept by Astralis 3 weeks ago and got swept by Gambit. But those losses, Gambit are one of the top teams in CSGO right now. And so I don't see that being any concern because Dexter, that was one of his first couple games with the team. So they're still trying to figure things out. But overall, I like Mouse Sports a ton tomorrow. I think they can easily have a sweep, maybe go 3 games, but I'm leaning more on a sweep from these guys.
I like it. I think you we're also going to call out something that I liked about hold on one quick second. I'm just trying to get this tweet out to DraftKings to get the out label removed from Jax.
Oh, you're good. Here, let me go to the pricing quick. Let me do the pricing while you do that.
Okay, perfect.
That way everyone knows what the pricing is for tomorrow.
Also, I was also just going to say that I liked how you started leaning and talking about kill rates and stuff like that. I don't think there's anything notable to talk about with this matchup related to death rates and kill rates. Mouse Sports as a team does have a pretty high kill rate, but death rates for both teams are pretty average, so nothing to really speak to there.
Yeah, and so when it comes to Mouse Sports, you have Ropes at 9,600, Frozen at 8,200, Bymus at 7,000, Acor at 6,200, and then the Dexter at 5,200. So I really like the pricing on these guys tomorrow for the Mouse Sports side. Like I said, you're always going to have the top-notch guys like the Ropes, the Zywus, things like that, a little more expensive. But you're paying for someone that's going to hit value almost majority of the time. So on the NC side of things, you have Daika at 8,400, Alu at 7,200, Snappy at 6,400, Spinks at 54, and Dodo at 42. They are on the cheaper side, but I'm not favoring this NC team at all. I'm actually going to fade them for tomorrow. I like Mouse Sports a ton when it comes to salary-wise and just overall. I think they're going to I think they could have a clean sweep tomorrow. But other than that, that's where I'm going to leave off with the pricing, because I think it's pretty self-explanatory on this line that they have. I think it's a firepower line. I think Dexter, you're going to find some leverage with him tomorrow as well. I think they've had enough time to practice and get things worked out and all the kinks.
Perfect. I like it. All right, we can move on to this next matchup. This next matchup, we got G2 at NIP, Ninjas in Pajamas. I really like this matchup. I'm pretty excited about it. I think that it's going to be super close. Both teams die a lot, so I honestly think that, whoever are the leaders in this game are probably going to get a lot of frags. The Nikos, the Plotskis, the Knocks, the Hunters, whoever it is that end up winning this series, those guys I can see ending with a lot of frags. When it's all said and done and I land on my flag plants, to be quite honest, I'll kind of go over this again, but I really like Nico. I really like Frozen for price ranges, and then I like Zywoo. To be quite honest, I'll probably land on Nico and Frozen as more of my captains more than anyone. But I probably won't have Nico as a flag plant because this matchup is super close, and I truly believe that Plopsky and Nock and Nip and the team of Nip can take this matchup. So my flag plants will be more centered around Zywoo or Frozen. But with that being said, definitely like Nico and the guys on the G2 side. Definitely like Plopsky and Nock on the Nip side. With this matchup, just to kind of get more depth with it, when I look at this matchup, I think that there's not a lot of data on, what way they're going to go. They play Dust 2 pretty equally. Honestly, they play Mirage pretty equally, and they play Inferno pretty equally. And to be quite honest, I think one of those three maps will be within the deciding maps. But I think that NIP and G2 are going to try and get different, and like G2 maybe takes like Train or something for their their map choice, or maybe they take like Vertigo, and I could see like NIP taking Overpass or something like that, or maybe taking Nuke. I don't know. I just feel like they're going to get different, and while Dust 2, Mirage, and Inferno have been played quite a bit, and they have good winning percentages across the board between both teams, I feel like one of those three maps are going to be in the deciders, and I feel like Nuke through Vertigo, one of those maps, Nuke, Train, Overpass, Vertigo, they're going to choose as their map choice as one of those maps. And so with that being said, I think that it can get real close. I'm leaning more on the G2 side. When I look at it, G2's last matchup was a week ago. They beat Sinners 16-13. That's not really that convincing. But before that, 3 weeks ago, they lost to Gambit, and then they beat Evil Geniuses in a sweep. They beat Big in a sweep. When I look at this NIP team, honestly, they lost to AGO, which is a Tier 2 team. They lost 1-2, I believe, about a week ago. 3 weeks ago, they lost to Virtus Pro. 3 weeks ago, they lost to Furia. This NIP team has been so up and down. They haven't been able to get in a good form lately. I'd like to think that the last 3 weeks that they've taken off, they have been, they've been able to get in some type of form. But obviously, in the last week, losing to AGO, they're still going through some differences in that lineup. With that being said, Nock is not playing the best. Nock is one of their better players, and he's totally out of form. It seems like when he does play really good, they win matchups, and they beat some of the better teams out there. So maybe that has a lot to do with it. So what I'm going to say is this matchup's going to come down to how good Nock is playing. He's one of the cheaper guys on the slate tomorrow. I believe he's like $4,600. And it's crazy because if he plays to his full potential, he's like slate breaking. Like he could literally be one of your captain guys that you would want and have one of the higher scores out of everyone tomorrow. He can totally put up 70, 80 points from a fantasy point standpoint. So it's a tough matchup from that standpoint. Obviously he's totally out of form right now. Plotski's been leading this team. When I look at the map selection, if Overpass gets through or, maybe Train gets through, I could see NIP totally beating G2 on an Overpass or Train. I could also see NIP taking an Inferno or a Dust 2. It just depends on what type of G2 we get. I'm hoping for the better G2. Maybe this change in their lineup with putting Jax in the lineup versus Kenny X is the change that they want. I know that they wanted to have Nico be more of that Hopper versus Kenny S. So we'll see if that makes all the difference for the team. I'm hoping so. The last time these two teams played were back in November, and Nip did take this matchup. And Kenny S was on that team, and Nico was also on this G2 team. So I don't know if that means anything, but I'll turn it over to you, Saint, to see what you got to say.
Yeah, man, I'm right there with you. I'm super excited to see how this G2 team comes out and plays without having a Kenny S in their lineup. I think Jax will be a good addition. I think he's going to be more suitable for this team when it comes to a lot of things. I think he's more understanding on layouts, call-outs, and things like that. I think Kenny S was kill hungry when it came to a lot of things. And so I like Kenny S as a player a ton. But I think Jax is a really good addition. I think he's going to help this team out tremendously. He's a phenomenal CSGO player. I think this game's super close. I mean, you can break it down any way you want, but even when these teams do play, it's pretty close. And so, I mean, NIP has 2 wins compared to G2's 1. But I think this is a whole new slate. I think it's going to be pretty close. I think it goes 3 games for sure. But I don't know. Because when it comes down to map selection and what I think is going to happen, I think G2 come out and sweep NIP. And the reason being, I'll give you a little explanation, but I'm going to give you map selection on why. I think NIP removed Vertigo. I think G2 removed Overpass. I think NIP picked Train. I think G2 picked Dust 2. I think NIP removed Mirage. G2 removes Nuke. And then that leaves Inferno left over. So if you look at NIP on Train, right, NIP, they haven't played that map besides 2 maps, right? And you have G2 playing at 25% on 4 maps. But I think it's going to come down to these teams are going to want to try to get different when it comes to map selection, just because they know each other's styles, they've played each other, and as of recent. So my point being is this game could go 3 games, but I really think G2 come out and absolute dominate NIP. And so that's my point being on this whole entire slate. I think Jax's addition is going to be absolutely a huge addition. And I think it's going to make Hunter and Nico's lives a lot easier, and Amanek and Nexa to fill in their roles that they really need to. I think they're kind of like a team liquid when it comes to a lot of things. When you have Elijah, Naf, and all these guys, and you saw what happened when they were actually able to play their game style. And I think that's what's going to happen when Jax comes onto this team. I think it's going to open up space for Nico, Hunter. I think Amanek will be able to play his role. And I think Nexa will be a strong suit where he's playing as well. So that's my interpretation on bringing in Jax. I think G2 can absolutely dominate this Group B stage. I think they can be in the top 3 for sure. But we'll definitely figure out how that plays out tomorrow. And obviously their first game against NIP.
Yeah. No, I like what you said about the map selection. I definitely can see that happening, pick and train. G2 win that, 25% of the time. They play that 4 times. NIP has not won that at all. They're at 0%. They play that 2. That could go either way. Obviously, G2's won at 25%, NIP at 0, so G2 has a little bit better, percentages. But, again, NIP's only played it twice, so that could literally go either way. Dust 2, 50-50. I mean, that could literally go either way as well. Really, it's just going to depend on what type of forms of teams that we get. Obviously, it's looking like NIP is still out of form, and it's looking like G2 is actually trying to catch some type of form. So, I mean, from a map selection standpoint, I think you're right on point with these maps that they might play. That seems very realistic. If it is, in fact, they play Train, Dust 2, and Inferno, man, it's going to be some close games, or it should be some close games. We'll see what type of teams we get. If it's not close, I do think I can't really see this NIP team blowing out G2. I can't really see them sweeping G2. I guess statistically, maybe they win Dust 2 and Train and sweep them, but I can't really see it happening. And so with that in mind, if this goes 3 games and NIP win, I like Nock and Plopsky. I guess in the event that, it goes, a NIP sweep, throw Hampus in there as well. Outside of that, on the G2 side, I like Nexa, Hunter, and Nico in sweeps. I like to also rotate Jackson, Amanek in a sweep, but probably would focus on the core of Nexa and Hunter and Nico. If it goes 3 games, I'd probably focus on Nico and then rotate between Hunter and Nexa. And I'd probably start with maybe Hunter and, lean on Nexa every now and again, but probably really trying to lean on Nexa just in sweeps.
Right.
So that's kind of my player preferences. And from a Bovada standpoint, Bovada has G2 winning this as a -140 favorite. HLTV seems to believe, from a population standpoint, they're voting 72% G2. So that's more context.
Yeah, I'm going to throw something in there quick, just the pricing for these 2 teams before we move on to the next slate. The pricing for G2 tomorrow, you have Jax at 9,200, which is a little on the expensive side. I'm going to fade him a little bit tomorrow just because I can find definitely value in Ropes or a Zywoo. But other than that, you got Nico at 8,000. Obviously, Kenny S. They still have him in there, but he's 7,400. You don't want to use him.
No, don't use Kenny S tomorrow. He is not playing.
Do not use Kenny S. So don't make sure you. And that's the other thing. A lot of people see, these guys are playing. They're already in the rosters and things like that. And DraftKings sometimes does not update it right away. And so you will be screwed if you use a Kenny S. That's 7,400 where you could use somewhere else, and it's just you don't even want to look at your lineup anymore. But other than that, you got Hunter at 7,000, Next at 6,200, and Amanek at 5,000. I love the pricing on this team for G2. NIP side of things, you have Plopsky at 8,800, Rez at 7,200, Hampus at 68, ZTR at 5,800, and Nock at 46. So that's definitely interesting, but other than that, I'm going to leave it at that when it comes to pricing. I like G2 a ton tomorrow.
Yeah, and again, keep in mind, these guys have the highest death rates as a team, NIP and G2 both. I guess I would lean more on the NIP side first and then G2. But point is, whoever wins this matchup, Nico, if G2 come ahead in the sweep or even in 3 maps, he's probably going to put up a really good score. Hunter as well. If it's going to be a sweep, Nexa, Hunter, or Nico is going to put up a great score, or all 3 of them are going to put up pretty good scores on average. So point is, fragging-wise, definitely look for the frags to come from this matchup. And wouldn't surprise me if Nico is our top scorer tomorrow, along with someone like Zywoo or something.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, let's go to this next matchup. We got Vitality versus FaZe. This is going to be an interesting one to break down from my perspective. I think that you got a lot to talk about as well. This is the showdown game as well, so there's a different way to, I guess, get different or talk about game theory from a showdown perspective. I'll leave that up to you, but let's talk about this FaZe versus Vitality breakdown. Honestly, Vitality is one of the better teams in the world. They were obviously ranked in the top, I think, 5 or they were top 1 pretty much all of 2020. But we're not seeing that same team here in 2021. It's been a rocky start. They were actually early exited from the IEM tournament last month. It was a double elimination, and I don't know. They just had a rocky tournament. I don't know what team we're going to get tomorrow. We haven't seen them play since that tournament, and it's tough to really say. I think this team is great. They got probably the best player in the world in Zywoo on their team. But I don't know. I don't know what to think. On the other side of the match, we got FaZe. FaZe has made some changes to their team. They obviously got Kerrigan in there. They got in there now instead of Oldmeister and who's the other guy? I can't think of his name. Wolfmeister and who else?
Yeah, retired.
Yeah, I can't think of the other guy. But anyways, we got two guys. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So we got Kerrigan and Twist on the team now. Now we got Brokey, Colderza, Rain joining them. This team is still trying to figure out, form together. They've had 3 weeks off to practice, so I imagine they're going to come out a little bit better. You could probably expect for things to be changed up. They're going to try and give Vitality a different look. This is a tough matchup for me to break down because I truly believe Vitality is the better team and should win this matchup, but there's a lot going on right now with this Vitality squad. I don't know if they've worked out the kinks. I don't know if, really what the issue is. I'll be surprised, I suppose, if, I guess I'll put it like this. If they do another spurt of what that just happened in the IEM tournament, this team will not be together. This team will be disbanded, and they'll be making some changes real quick. So we're on this cusp right now with what's going on in this matchup. Is Vitality, was that just a blip in the radar and nothing to be worried about, and they're just going to keep going smooth sailing and smooth it out? Or is this actually a disruption to this team, and this team is dismantling right before our eyes? And if that's the case, then you want to start hopping off the bandwagon now. Now, for me, there's not enough data right now that tells me that, they're dismantling before our eyes other than what we've seen last month at the IEM tournament, and that's pretty concerning because this team does not lose, and they were losing left and right. So, again, I think that you need to be cognizant of that. Don't be surprised if they lose. Don't be surprised if they're not that team that you're thinking and they end up taking, second in this group, or, they don't take first or something crazy like that. As it pertains to this FaZe matchup, I think Twist, Brokey, Colderza, they're great players. We haven't seen Brokey and Colderza play great in a long time. I don't know if it's just because of the team that they're playing on or what, but there's a lot of potential on this team. I think they're going to try and give out some different looks. I can't say that I'm on the FaZe side, but it would not surprise me if they win this matchup tomorrow. I like Twist, but his pricing tomorrow is a little expensive. I like Brokey. He seems to be pretty priced right. Colderza's priced right. That's probably where I'd focus in a FaZe win. I would want all three of them in a sweep. I don't see them sweeping Vitality tomorrow. I see more of it going to 3 maps if they had any type of chance. That's where I'd focus on Twist and a Brokey, Twist and a Colderza. But for me personally, I think I'd probably focus more on the Vitality side. I like Zywoo. I like Shocks. I like Apex and Sweeps. I like Zywoo, Shocks, and then I like Zywoo, Shocks, and Apex in a sweep. I'd probably rotate RPK also with Apex in a sweep. I'd stay away from Misuta a little bit. But for tomorrow, I do think that this has a chance to go 3 maps, which makes me really like Zywoo. Anytime Zywoo goes 3 maps, he puts up pretty good scores, 70+. So maybe he's a good captain proponent for tomorrow if it does go 3 maps. But I'd probably focus on the Shocks and Zywoo. And that's where I'm just going to end it and let you kind of speak from there.
Yeah. I have some interesting stuff to break down. I haven't told anybody this before. I was telling C-Will before that I had some interesting breakdown statistical-wise showdown matchups, and so we're gonna try to interpret into this 3-game slate, and I want everybody else to realize what I'm saying here. So since 2020, I've done a lot of research when it comes down to slates and all of that. And for instance, 7 out of 10 times the underdog in the showdown takes it down. So that means 30% of the time, the team that's actually supposed to win in the showdown slate actually wins 30% of the time. The underdog that's supposed to lose ends up winning. So that's something to be aware of. You guys could definitely try it for tomorrow if you want to. I'm first going to lean on who I'm going to pick from this showdown, because these guys in the showdown are going to be in the top 3-game slate lineup construction. It just makes the most sense. You have to look at it this way. Guys are winning $5,000 to $10,000 on a showdown with guys that are putting up crazy points no matter what, right? So you have to find leverage in that showdown in this 3-game slate, because it's really going to boil down to a Zaiwu. Okay, you're going to have a Coldzera. You're going to have a cheap guy from this showdown slate that hits value. Okay, you have to get unique when it comes to showdowns and have a cheap guy in your captain spot to win that big prize. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're looking for a cheap guy and you can't find anybody, work your way around that showdown, because one of those players is going to be in the top lineup construction. And you'll see it tomorrow. You're going to have a lot of these guys from the showdown in the top lineup for the 3-game slate, okay? So overall tomorrow, like you said, don't be surprised if FaZe wins. I'm leaning on FaZe. I'm taking FaZe all the way. And my point being is Vitality, yeah, they're supposed to be a top 5 team. For me, I still don't like how things happened in the last tournament. I think Shocks was a little flustered. They kind of figured it out at the end. I just don't like their 6-man rotation. I don't like picking that team at all. The only person I like picking from that team is Zaiwu, because he's the most consistent. And that's just the point being. You can look at game logs, you can look at all that, but he is the most consistent guy across the board when it comes to things. And then Shocks is number 2. So if you're using anybody from that team, I would use a Zaiwu, a Shocks, just because those are the guys are the most consistent when it comes to things. But it's just hard for me to pick anybody else from that team, just because people get swapped in substitutions with their 6-man rotation. FaZe, I like Kerrigan coming back to this team. With Olaf Meister retiring, Kerrigan was an easy play-in for him just because he played with his team previously. I like this team a ton. When Kerrigan was on the team, they were a top 10 team. And with the Twist edition, I love this team. You got a Brokey, Twist, Coldzera, Rain, and Kerrigan. That lineup construction is phenomenal. And when I look at it and break it down, it's a little interesting because HLTV has Vitality losing tomorrow. But I don't think majority of the people are going to probably lean on Vitality's side of things, just because they're a top 5 team in the world, right? So that's just something to be aware of. But overall, I love Twist tomorrow. I love Coldzera. People won't be able to guess my flag plant tomorrow. Siwa won't either. I promise you. I'll let him take a guess. He might have a little idea what I'm trying to do tomorrow. But overall, I like Twist, Coldzera, and Brokey when it comes to things. That's going to be where I'm leaning. I'm actually probably going to only have 2 FaZe guys in my lineup tomorrow, with a one-off with Zaiwu, just because Zaiwu is going to hit. He always hits value, no matter what, even in a win or a loss. He's always up there, just because he gets a lot of 2-kill rounds and 3-kill rounds. I mean, that's what he does, even in losses. So just be aware of that. When it comes down to map selection, let me see here.
I was curious to see what your map selections thought were.
So this is what I got on map selection. I think FaZe removed Vertigo tomorrow. I think Vitality removed Train. I think FaZe picked Nuke. I think Vitality picks Overpass. I think FaZe remove Inferno. I think Vitality removes Mirage. And then Dust 2 is left over. So I think things are going to get a little weird. I think it's going to be different tomorrow. I think some of these maps do lean Vitality's way. But I think across the board, when it comes to things, I think FaZe, even when they do play, these teams have played a ton, so there's not really insight on who you think is going to, these teams haven't played. These teams have played over 20 times throughout their career. I mean, so they know things are working, but it's a little different for this FaZe team because Vitality hasn't played this team when it comes to having Twist, having a Kerrigan back on this team, and then obviously they played Coldzera, Rain, and Brokey. Those guys have been on the team consistently. But when it comes to a Twist, it's going to get a little different. And so I'm excited for this slate. This is my favorite matchup for tomorrow. I think both of these teams are going to be in the top 3 with probably a Miles Sports or a G2 along those ways. But I am super high on FaZe tomorrow. I love them. They're probably my team I'm going with, and locking in tomorrow with a one-off of Zai Wu. But that's where I'm at. But I did want to let people know on what the new stance is, just because a lot of people aren't talking about it. I do too much research when it comes to stuff like this, and I try to find leverage in different ways that you possibly can gain leverage in these 3-game slates. A lot of people don't do what I do when it comes to looking at a showdown in the 3-game slate. It just makes their life a lot easier, trying to figure out, hey, who am I going to have my 2 captain spots, and work your lineup around that. Because majority of the time, for you, Sewell, or me, right, okay, I think these guys are going to perform, so I'm going to put those 2 in my captain spots. Well, for me, those are 2 locks that are going straight into my 3-game slate, no matter what. If I think they're going to perform in the showdown and put up crazy points, why wouldn't I have them in my 3-game slate? It doesn't make any sense. So that's my leverage for tomorrow. You guys can definitely try it. You don't have to if you have something that works for you. But we're always trying to learn things. We're always trying to gain leverage when it comes to CSGO, because CSGO is fairly new when it comes to the esports world and just gaming on DraftKings overall. It really started hitting when the pandemic hit. So there's a lot of new players that are trying to figure this stuff out, and we do have leverage because we know what we're talking about when it comes down to the teams, map selections, players to pick, and things like that. So overall, that's all I got to say about this Vitality and FaZe game tomorrow. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the slate. But that's all I got, man.
Yeah. I like everything you were saying there. To kind of sum things up, I think that Mouse Sports should come out and beat this Ints team pretty convincingly. I think 7-8 times out of 10 they're probably sweeping this team. G2 NIP, very, very close. Very high probability in going 3 maps. I like the G2 side. Definitely wouldn't be surprised if NIP pulled it out, but I really can't see it. I think G2 should probably win that matchup. And then we got another really, really close one between Vitality and FaZe. This one all really just depends on, did Vitality fix their issues? Did this FaZe team take the time to practice, get in form, or are they going to throw a bunch of surprises out to Vitality and that they're not prepared for? This FaZe team does have a lot of potential. And again, the NIP side, going back to that NIP G2 game, if NIP do win, it's going to be on the backs of Plopsky and Nock, specifically Nock. He's one of the cheapest guys on the slate tomorrow. So if NIP do win that matchup, you can best bet that Plopsky is going to be in people's lineups, the optimal lineup. Wouldn't even surprise me if he is the captain, as cheap as he is, and as high of a score as he can score. Yeah. As far as flag plant for me, from a flag plant standpoint, I'm going to say Frozen. I like his price at 8,200. You could also throw Zai Wu in there. You can't go wrong. Zai Wu's a little expensive, but he's bound to give you 60 to 75 points. If he's getting a little crazy, you can even get 100 out of him at times. So definitely throw Zai Wu in there, but really it's going to be Frozen. I also really like Nico. I just can't tell you that he's a flag plant because there's too much of a probability that NIP could take that matchup. So I will say Nico might be in one of my, in my core lineup. I could see Nico being my captain though. So I will say that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. My flag plants are going to be a little different. That's always okay because we have different thoughts and things like that. But we always come together when it comes to certain things. I'll give you my top 3 for tomorrow. I love Twist in my captain spot. I love Ropes. My number 1 for tomorrow, my flag plant of the day, and this is where I said no one would even guess it, I'm taking Coldzera in my captain spot. I'm taking my shot on that. I think he's going to be super low owned. I think he's going to be one of the top plays in the showdown tomorrow. So my mentality coming in the 3-game slate, if he's going to be a top play for me in the showdown, it's going to be a top play when it comes to the 3-game slate. I like Zai Wu a ton. He will be in my lineup just because it's going to be a super competitive matchup. I think Zai Wu, he's not going to be in my captain spot at all just because I think he's a little too expensive. And you have to your lineups have to get weird when it comes to that. But if I use a Coldzera in my lineup, I can fit Zywoo, I can fit Nico, I can fit Ropes, I can fit Twist. So there's my core 5 right there. I mean, I think I love it. I got one play, my favorite play from G2. I got my favorite play from Mouse Sports. Got my favorite play from Vitality. And my core from FaZe. So that's what I'm leaning on tomorrow. I'm liking I'll tell you what. Hold on, let me see here. When it comes to lineup construction, I have, once it loads here,
I like a 2-2-2 or a 3-2-1.
Yeah, so right now I have a 1, 2, so I have a stack of FaZe with 3 from them with the Coldzera, Twist, Brokey, and then I have a 1-1-1. So I'm doing something a little different tomorrow. I'm gonna see how it goes. I think if these other games are competitive, I want a Ropes because he's gonna score a lot of points. I like a Nico because I think he's going to score a lot of points for G2. So I'm going to take my stance with that and stack a FaZe team that I think are going to score a decent amount of points with a Zywoo that's going to score decent points. That's my mentality tomorrow. I've never done a 3-1, or what is it? Yeah, 3-1-1-1. I've never done one, ever. But I'm going to take my stance, and it's not always like that because I do a lot of the showdowns. It's a 3-2-1 stack. But I'm seeing a lot of value in this Vitality FaZe game. I think it could end up being a shootout when it comes to a lot of things. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at, man.
All right.
I'm going to leave it at.
Yeah, if I'm going to stack a team, I'm more likely to stack a Mouse Sports. I do like the 3-2-1 build tomorrow. I probably am going to do more of a 2-2-2. I like that. Yeah, that's probably where I'm going to lean. I'm more likely to do the Mouse Sports and do. But right now I'm currently at the 2-2-2. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I love that. I love the 2-2-2. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I think you find a lot of value in all 3 of these games. And there's going to be a lot of high-scoring guys in all 3 of these games. And that's why I'm super excited about this slate. But I'm going to take a different stance and see how it works tomorrow.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting.
Yep.
With that, again, appreciate all of our listeners. Just so you know, we will not be back until Monday nights. We are here Monday through Friday for 3 or more game slates. With that being said, we might try and get a write-up out tomorrow or something like that. Aren't going to guarantee anything, but definitely count on us Monday through Fridays, 3 or more game slates, bigger in case that you're checking for us tomorrow or something like that. Outside of that, do you have any closing thoughts or anything you want to add, Zane, or are you good?
No, I think I'm good. I'll try to get a write-up tomorrow. It may be tough. I'm not going to count on it just because we usually are doing things Monday through Friday. But if I do have time, I will definitely get out some insight on, some key factors in tomorrow, maybe some top core plays that I'm thinking of tomorrow, and maybe just a write-up on who I think is going to win the games. So I'm not going to promise things just because I don't want to promise and then not deliver. So just being aware of that, but I am going to try to at least get something out for you guys just because this whole slate, 3-game slates are going to be going through the whole entire week. So I at least want you guys to have something rather than nothing when it comes to that because this tournament is pretty big and the majority of this Group B stage is going to be playing on Saturday and Sunday, and we'll figure it out Monday through Thursday. We'll have all that. But other than that, I'll try my best to get everything out, but I hope everyone wins. I hope you guys start retweeting things out, get this bigger. We're trying to help everybody that we can, give them insight on what we're thinking when it comes to all this. So, like I said, I appreciate everybody that is listening, and we're always here if you have any questions. So that's what I got.
Great. One last note, just because it just came to mind. Nivira. Nivira plays for Vitality. He and Masuda usually subs in and out for each other. Because of new rules and whatnot, he has stepped down. So you can expect Masuda to be playing all rounds, all maps, no substitutions or anything like that. So if you are looking at Masuda in your draft pool tonight, especially in like a Vitality sleep or something like that, I personally wouldn't be going there, but if you are, you can expect him to be playing all maps. He is going to be there. That's another new angle, right? Because now that they're not doing that substitution thing, you'll get him full in the roster for the full year. So it'd be interesting to see what his stats end up at and how good he actually is or what contribution he makes to the team. Just want to make sure I threw that in there as a last thought because a lot of people will be looking at Masuda and being like, okay, can I play him? A lot of people see Nigeria and maybe think they can play them. Nigeria stepped down. He won't be playing any maps.
Perfect. I'm glad you said that because I didn't even look at that. So I'm glad that you did. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll be available on Sunday. Sundays are more my relaxed day, just depending on what's going on. But other than that, if you guys need to message me, I know some people have tried to reach out asking for advice. I apologize if I haven't got back to you. I just found out my notifications weren't on for Discord. So when you guys do send messages, it'll actually go off now. So I'll take a look if you guys have any questions. But I just wanted to say that I'm not ignoring anybody. I'm trying to help everybody as much as I can. Same with you, Sewell. But other than that, I'm good. And probably Monday through Friday, I'll leave my notifications on. But Saturday and Sunday, I'll probably leave them off. But I will check when I possibly can, just because I got family things, my fiance, all that good stuff. So, but other than that, that's all I got for today. I hope everybody wins tomorrow. Hopefully we get some big takedowns. That's what we're striving for. But like I said, that's all I got. If you have anything else, I'm good. We can roll out.
All right. Have a good night, people. Bye.
Cool.